Furthermore, the Kenya Power and Lighting Company have essentially been supporting these units to be able to locate where the Gen Z leadership live, and therefore they were accessory to this. The Kenya Human Rights Commission currently have a court case against SAFARICOM on just this very issue. So I think it's important that the law enforcement agencies all over the world looks at the progress around data governance. Here in Kenya, we of course celebrated the 5th anniversary of the Data Protection Act last year, just towards the end of the year. And I think what I was present to as Amnesty International was just how far we've come in terms of data governance. We have probably one of the best African laws, and definitely it is comparable to many European laws around data protection. It's not to say that it has not been easy. I think there have been many data breaches. This morning we watched Kenyans lining up to give their irises or their eyeballs to a company called WorldCoin. So there are many cases where you've seen companies behaving irresponsibly by taking people's data without essentially their consent or full understanding. We have to be clear that the only way that we protect the privacy of citizens is to robustly keep the law alive and enforce it, because if we don't do that, then the temptation for some government agencies to use mass surveillance, for example, to target opponents, people they see as politically opponent, will essentially destroy the law, and the law will not be respected as a neutral law that protects all, but something that is weaponized for some. So there are about 3 critical, suits against the Data Protection Act or the Office of the Data Protection Commissioner. The first is an old one. It essentially goes back to how the Act was legislated. And I think for many of us, we feel that the arguments that are there in terms of public participation may have been overtaken by the last 5 years. The danger of declaring the last 5 years to have been unconstitutional is that it would open a floodgate of concerns and also counter litigation to the state, because what they would argue is that whatever rulings have been made by the commissioner, they can now be essentially overturned as a result of the constitutionality of the act. So we're against that as Amnesty International. The second one relates to the powers of the Data Protection Commissioner. And again, here I think we have to be very careful. As Amnesty International, we would argue that it is not in the country's interest, it's not in the national interest or the public interest for the Office of the Data Protection Commissioner not to have teeth. They have to have teeth. A number of former abductees have made allegations that they felt that their personal information, particularly their location data, was revealed to the special units that have been abducting. Up to about 89 citizens have been abducted in the last 6 months, and that they felt that their location data had been given without their consent and without a court order to the special units that have been abducting people. Furthermore, the Kenya Power and Lighting Company have essentially been supporting these units to be able to locate where the Gen Z leadership live, and therefore they were accessory to this. The Kenya Human Rights Commission currently have a court case against SAFARICOM on just this very issue. So I think it's important that the law enforcement agencies stop and think about